Welcome to Comparing Notes. I'm Allie from Finding Mr. Height,
And I'm Talia from Dating Intentionally.
and we are teaming up to support you beyond the early dating stages and through the different stages of a new relationship.
Yep, we both have had a ton of experience going on, lots of dates that actually led to getting into long-term relationships, and we're so excited to share our wisdom with you to help you avoid the pitfalls and the anxiety spirals along the way.
So, this is part three, the last part in our series about the different milestones in relationships, and we'll be covering the 1 year mark, which is a big deal in a relationship.
Yeah.
So, in part one, we talked about the 3 month mark. Part two, we dove into the 6 month mark, and you can go back and listen to both there in the show notes.
Yes, and I highly recommend it. I mean, we've been getting great feedback on both part 1 and 2. People are finding this very helpful because it's like we're really getting into the nitty-gritty of each milestone, which does come with different kind of things you want to focus on, things you're thinking about.
Yeah, I think some of the feedback that I've gotten on this series is how people appreciate how granular we've gotten,
Yeah,
because I think there's a lot of high level advice out there, but it's like, okay, but in the day to day, those things that might seem small but eventually add up to be larger, I think end up being super important and don't get talked about as much.
totally agree. Totally agree. I know I didn't really hear about any of the things that we were talking about anywhere else, whether I was seeking it out or not. It's like I was in therapy and then I had like what I was scrolling through on Instagram and that was kind of it, and the books, I guess. But it's still not as specific. I don't know.
Oh, I think it's also just really helpful to hear from other people of like, we're going to start with our experiences on hitting the one
Yeah.
year mark, but like to really hear that real life, here's what happened to me.
Yeah, so for this episode, we're gonna start in sharing our experiences with hitting the 1 year mark. If you're just jumping in, have been in my relationship now for 3 years and change, and we are just about to celebrate our 1 year wedding anniversary. This will come out, I think,
Yay.
after we've done that. But yeah, so that's the just a snapshot of where I am. And Allie, what about you?
I'm at a year and a half with my partner. We have moved in together as of, please don't look behind me if you're watching the video because there's a lot of boxes still. We moved in together like a week and a half ago.
Wow, you still haven't unpacked everything, Allie. What the hell? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Congratulations, it's amazing.
Thank
I'm
you. I'm
excited to hear
excited. I'm
more.
excited for your anniversary and you have a big trip. And
Yes.
I'm excited for all your things.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll share a little bit of my experience first hitting the 1 year mark with Johnny. So, first of all, I just want to point out, I just want to say we chose our anniversary date randomly. So, everyone always asks, like, do you count the anniversary from when you first met on the apps or met in person, wherever? Do you count from the first date? Do you count from when you were officially boyfriend, girlfriend? I don't think it matters. Like, you do you.
No,
We picked a date between when we first matched and our first in person date.
I love
So,
that. Well, especially because for you,
it
y'all
was
had
a
a little
month.
bit untraditional beginning.
Yeah, there was like a month where we weren't in person with each other. So it didn't like necessarily progress how it normally would because of that. So we just picked a date. But I will say, by the time we got to that first year anniversary, we didn't really celebrate because my mom happened to be in town and we like went camping.
Oh,
So we didn't even really do anything. But it was a weird situation because like right before that, like it's kind of all came together. At 1 year, we were in the process of moving, or maybe we already moved to Mountain View from Seattle. So,
mm.
and we also just went on a big trip to Hawaii because I sold my company and I was like, let's go to Hawaii and celebrate.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah, that was awesome. So, like, we had a lot of celebrations in like a short amount of time. So, I feel like we didn't really need to acknowledge the anniversary too much. But Johnny still jokes around how like I bailed on our first anniversary together to hang out with my mom.
To go out with your mom. Yeah.
I asked him if it was okay. Okay, like I'm not an evil person. Like I asked him, like, are you cool with this? And he said yes. Like he just didn't care that much. Here's the thing: at this point in our relationship, we both kind of knew we were it. And I think for
Yeah.
me, I can't speak for him. I kind of was okay with this because I knew we were going. I was like, we're probably gonna get married. We're gonna have another anniversary that's like the real deal date. Not that this isn't real, but you know what I mean. It's a different kind of anniversary. It just
Yeah.
didn't
You're going to
matter
be
to me, I
celebrating a
guess.
different thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't too like worked up about it. Whereas in my past relationships, hitting the 1 year mark was a huge deal. But like in this one, I don't know, it just wasn't for me. But I guess like I want to point something out though, because and I don't know if you do any reflection of where you were 1 year later. Because I know
Oh, yeah.
before you met Skyline, like you had just come on my podcast, which is an epic episode because you came back like 1 year after, and that was so cool. For me, I matched with Johnny when I was single, obviously, in
Mm.
Hawaii on a solo trip. just coming off of a thing that did not work with someone I really liked. Working in my company, I wasn't happy. I wasn't feeling creatively fulfilled. And, 1 year later, it's like I have sold the company. I'm dating this guy for a year who I'm probably gonna marry. Like, and we're back in Hawaii together. It was magical.
I love that so much. And similarly, I say a lot, it just takes one. And I mean that. And I think that's true across so much of life. But when I say that, I mean like one date or one person where, like, yeah, when I came on your pod the first time, I had been single for 5 years almost at that point, and so single. Like, I dated some people here and there, but like very, very single. And then now, all of a sudden, a year later, it was like I have this partner. We're celebrating in on a international vacation, which I'll get into. And also in that time, I quit my corporate job and was working for myself. So like
Right. And
so different.
that's amazing. And just for sharing this with you listeners, because a lot can change in a year. A
Yep.
lot. Like, and I want you to also take the time, even if you're single now, like just to look back on how far you've come in the past 12 months, right? It's like a lot can change. So I think it's beautiful to think about these things and reflect on them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I also think if I could go back, I would lean even more into the things that I really loved about my single life.
Yeah.
In a similar way to, like, as I was preparing to move in with Skyline, I started really leaning into the things that I loved about living alone.
Yeah.
And I think that if I had done that more, or even more, I was doing it a lot because, like, hi, we have these platforms, but like, I would do it even more and even more so lean into the things that I love about that version of my life.
That's so well put. And I think that's great advice to anyone listening right now. It's like there are huge advantages to being single that you do lose when you get into a relationship. There's pros and cons to everything, right? There's a trade-off
Yeah.
for everything. So yeah, I love that. So yeah, at the year mark, we had just moved in together. We moved to a different state from Washington to California. And we were talking about kind of our new life together in Mountain View. That was like a very big change going from like a city to a suburbs for me, which is it's like 2.5 years later, still adjusting.
Still
Um,
adjusting.
I don't really like it very much, but you know what? Here we are. When we were talking about moving in together, Johnny had this master plan. Okay. This is a man with a master plan, not just any plan. He was, before we met, long before we met, he wanted to leave his government job to work in the private sector to kind of boost his career a little bit. Then, with the intention of meeting someone and moving back to continue working in the government job. That was his master plan.
It's
And he
so
pulled it
specific.
off. Yeah, he pulled it off perfectly,
Crazy.
flawlessly.
Well done. Just props up to Johnny, truly.
It's so attractive. Like I just like, wow, you really know how to execute. When he told me that, when he's like, I left this government job at NASA to work in the private sector and then I want to go back, that meant moving from Washington to California. And I just happen to be the kind of person who, one, loves moving, two, can work anywhere, right, with my job.
Yeah.
So he was, in a way, he was lucky he met me specifically because I was so down for that. I'm like, yeah, of course I'll move to California with you.
And was that a deal breaker for him at the time that the person that he met would be okay with that?
No, he said if I wanted to stay in Washington, he would stay at the job he had. And,
Oh, wow.
he also had friends in Seattle. He didn't move there knowing absolutely no one.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like that. But, I had friends, but no, we both didn't have family there at all. Like, at least here in California, he has his family. And at the time, my mom and brother did live here and they moved like promptly after I moved here. So that was great. I was like, oh, yeah, I moved to California. My mom and brother lived there like
They're
within an
like,
hour.
bye.
And they were like, bye. Yeah, it was really great. So, but I did have, there was like a condition of I will move with you to California, but we have 1 year of living together before we decide if we're going to get married or not. Because
Mm.
I made the mistake before of living with someone for far too long before there was any any real talk of marriage or what the next steps were. And he agreed. He's like, okay. And I'm privileged in that I can make the decision to move to a different state and if I need to move back or go
Yeah.
somewhere else. Right? That's not something that everyone gets to do, but it's something that I had available to me, so I was like willing to take that risk.
How did you come up with that time amount? Like, how did you come up with it's a year?
Well, I think okay, first of all, at that point for us, at the one year mark of living together, it would be 2 years together, which is like my just limit of the amount of time I think is appropriate for me to decide if I want to get married to someone. I think it's pretty spot on, especially in your 30s. If you've had a lot of relationships and you know that's what you want, if you know
Yeah.
you're very sure about this, it's like after 2 years, what else do you need to know? What more do you need to see? Like, and maybe
I to-
listener, like if you disagree, please tell me in the comments. Like I'm not like I'm right and you're wrong. It's just what it was for me.
I totally agree with you. Also, because you're not saying, or you weren't at the time, even though your timeline ended up being more like this, you're not saying at 2 years we need to be married or be
No,
engaged, but rather like that's when we need to know that that's what we're going to do.
exactly. It's a joint decision. And if
Yeah.
we got to 2 years and it was like, I don't know, then I'd walk away. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's been 2 years, man. So yeah, he agreed to this, this whole timeline. And spoiler alert, we got engaged 6 months after we moved in together. So we got engaged 18 months into our relationship. That was cool with me. But yeah, like that was a lot of transition happening in one year, I guess is what I'm pointing out. It's like
Yeah.
the move to different states, the decision of like moving in together means we are going to get married, or that's what we want. And we both had new jobs. He, switched back to NASA. He somehow got his job again, which is crazy. And I sold my company, so I was just taking a break. Like it was a lot of change all at once.
Yeah. And navigating that with someone else who is also navigating change. It's like there's not one person who's kind of the steady, nothing's changed in the relationship.
Yes, and at the time, those two things for like the two career things for both of us were both really, really stressful. Selling my
Yeah.
company was the most stressful thing I've ever gone through, but I'm so happy I did it. I was a wreck during that time. It was a really, really hard time. And then with him, he almost didn't get to go back to NASA. Like he almost didn't make it back. It was kind of dicey at a certain point. So it was very stressful for both of us.
So how was that dynamic? Like we talked about in the past in our part two about the 6 month mark in terms of like continuing to validate that
Hmm.
what you thought was true is true about this person and their relationship. What did that look like for you during that time?
I think I'm glad we had those hard moments because it really did just prove that he was the person I wanted to be near me when shit hit the fan. Like I wanted to be,
Mm,
I think I was also that person for him. You know, he would call me, he'd be like, I'm upset or like I'm going through it right now. And the fact that he could come to me and have that and do that was like a really big deal to me. I never had been in a relationship with someone who actually relied on me for support, which is wild, So it was different. But it really did validate a lot of things.
and in reverse, you felt like you were able to do the same with him?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. He just needs a rock, like he just needs someone like anyone else. You just need someone to like vent to or talk to. You don't I'm not there to fix his problems. He's not there to fix my problems. It's just like, can we lean on each other?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, at this 1 year mark, we had already met each other's friends. He came to New York with me like just before we hit this point and met all my friends because my
Hmm.
friends are from the East Coast. And he met the rest of my family that he'd not met. And so like we had completed the, I guess, American, like people who live in America, my family
Yeah.
and his family. Yeah, we had met everyone. And what else? We also had been on like several trips at that point. We had been to Italy, Vancouver, different parts of the Bay Area and in California and Hawaii and New York. So we had traveled a bunch. That, as we mentioned last episode, can teach you a lot about your relationship. So we had gone
Oh,
through
yeah.
a lot in this 1 year. And we also were talking about rings. We talked about rings before we moved in. He asked me to make a Google Drive folder of pictures. I was like,
I love
oh, say
that.
less.
Because if I remember correctly, his preference would have been to be engaged before moving in, right?
No, that
Or
was
was it
my
the other way? That
preference.
was your
Yeah.
preference. Sorry.
Yeah.
I knew one
Yeah.
person preferred that.
He had never lived with anyone before. And again, like I said earlier, I was willing to take the risks. I knew if it didn't work out, I had the means to move away,
Right.
to not live with him anymore if it didn't work out. But like for some of you like listening, that might be way too risky for you. And it might not be
Yeah.
the right move. And it's okay if you want to put your foot down and be like, I want to be engaged before I move in with someone. That's totally reasonable.
Yeah. Or particularly moving somewhere else. Like you
Yeah.
mentioned, for you, you have the privilege of being able to work from wherever. So you didn't have to change anything about your career in order to be in a different location.
Yeah. And I also just want to say I was terrified of everything. I was terrified. I had done this before, it didn't work out. I didn't know his friends very well. I, didn't really have my own friends in the Bay Area. So But like 2.5 years later, now I do. Now I'm besties with his friends and like we hang out all the time. They're like my family, you know? So like if you're scared of something in the moment, it's like it will actually progress and change either way.
I think that's a really good point that you made about, first of all, I'm so happy that it's progressed and changed in such a good
Yeah.
way.
Thank you.
But you make such a good point about how you had these fears because of what you had been through before. And I have not been through a lot of what I am navigating with Skyline. Like we are almost at my max in relationships, and I'd never lived with someone before, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think for listeners, I think some listeners are worried from your perspective of like, oh my gosh, XYZ things have happened before. I'm worried they're going to happen again. And then there's this whole other group of listeners that are thinking, oh no, I've never done XYZ things before. What will they be like?
Yeah.
Both things are scary
Yeah,
and
it's
both are
scary.
valid.
And it tests your communication. It tests your whole relationships. I do recommend taking risks within your, somewhat of your like whatever your comfort zone is, but and what you can financially do. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's how you learn. You're not going to learn anything about your relationship unless you speak up, you communicate, you take these risks together. It's worth it. But yeah, the last thing really quick is just that I never questioned his intentions, right?
Mm.
And this is really important. And when you're choosing someone to date, like the whole time, I never questioned, does he really like me? Is he choosing me? Does he want to be with me? Like, is he for real? Is he stringing me along? No, like this man was so serious the whole time. So yeah.
That's so important. And so, like, even though you're validating and navigating, is this the person I want to be with long term? Is the person I want to marry? If what you want is marriage, et cetera. It's like in each stage, you're not questioning being in on that stage.
Yeah, exactly. So before we switch over to hearing what you have experienced this 1 year mark, we had a little poll for you guys. We asked both of our Instagram audiences, do you think moving in together after 1 year is A, too soon, B, perfect timing, C, depends on the couple, or D, too late? Do you have your results on this?
I do. In hindsight, we probably should have said like in your 30s or something like that
Yeah.
with like some sort of precursor, because the vast majority of my audience, 76% of people, said it depends on the couple. And
Yeah.
based on the replies that I got anecdotally, it's because of age, like for the
Yeah.
most part.
For sure. Yeah, we should have specified age. I think 1 year in your 30s is perfect timing, I would say. But
Same.
like it doesn't have to be if it's a little later than that. Sometimes like you with the lease timing and the whatever, it doesn't have to be 1 year. But I also had the majority depends on the couple for sure.
Yeah. Also, and this is true with every single poll that we do, honestly, in this whole series, but it's like the assumption is that when moving in is something that you want to do.
Yeah. Right. If you don't want to live with your partner, you absolutely don't have to. Like plenty
Sure.
of couples don't live together, they're together for a long time.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, like, all of this is like, assuming that you do want to eventually move in together, what do you think the ideal timeline is? And I agree with you. I think that makes total sense that
Yeah.
about a year mark, when you're at where we're at, I wouldn't have
Yes.
thought that at 24.
No, no, no. Oh my God. Well, yeah, the first time I moved in with someone, we had been dating for 3 years. And
Yeah.
one of those years was long distance. So
I
it's
mean,
okay.
when I was in my longest relationship, I think I started dating him when I was 25 or 26. And we were like, granted, I was about to break up with him, but we were at about the year and a half mark. And I was in no way thinking, oh, we should live together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Huh? I'm glad you broke up with
Yeah,
him
same.
then. So tell me, what about your experience with Skyline at the 1 year mark, which you guys had recently?
Yeah, that 1 year was this year. So the biggest thing that I remember about that time is just how solid I felt, and that I actually wasn't thinking about the fact that, oh, I'm nervous about things I haven't done before, or like, oh my gosh, it's been over 10 years since I've had an anniversary with someone. I was thinking about it because I have to talk about it on the podcast, or like my platform. Have to is the wrong word, but like I was thinking about it because I wanted to share.
Yeah. You weren't concerned.
Correct. But
Yeah.
it wasn't something I think in a vacuum, if I weren't sharing my dating life and relationship life publicly, that I would have been like constantly thinking about
Yeah.
in a way that was sort of new for me. Literally, Skyline and I were talking about something unrelated right before we came to do this recording. And he said to me, you wouldn't be you if you weren't overthinking.
He knows you.
He knows me so well, as he kissed my forehead and sent me upstairs to do this recording.
Oh my God. He's
So,
sweet.
so sweet. So we did do a big thing for our anniversary. We took a big vacation. We went to Mexico for a full week. like all inclusive resort vibes, super romantic. And this is an example of a way that Skyline really aligns with what I knew I was looking for. I absolutely love to travel. And I was pretty much to the point of a deal breaker looking for somebody who wanted to do that with me.
Yeah, same. Exactly the same for me. Yeah.
I've absolutely found that in him. And I started asking him about it early on, mostly because he did not travel that much previously. And
Johnny
so
someone.
but what I have found is that he is enthusiastically into it. I'm usually the one that suggests it of like, oh,
Do you plan to, or are you sharing the planning?
no, then he leans in on the planning.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah,
Teamwork.
absolutely. But I think if left to his own devices, I think he would honestly just forget.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's been a year and he hasn't gone anywhere. I think that was like his previous vibe.
Got it. Got it. It's like he wants to, it just wasn't, he wasn't prioritizing it necessarily. Yeah.
Right. Whereas if I'm like, hey babe, like let's go somewhere for our anniversary, he's like, absolutely yes. And he's sending me ideas.
Love it.
So like that's something I was really looking for and prioritizing. And that I just remember being so happy that he was somebody that wanted to do something like that. And so our anniversary is the day we met, actually,
Oh,
because
nice.
that also, and technically we'd interacted one time before, but the day that we had our first, like,
Yeah.
I'm Allie, I'm Skyline, that day, we also happened to be our first kiss.
Nice.
But it's funny to me. It was funny when I was like reading your notes in prep for the recording when you mentioned that you were like picking a random day because you knew that eventually it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
That anniversary trip is when we really started talking about our engagement timeline in like a more serious
Oh,
way.
yeah. That's awesome. I also want to point out, like this, we'll share this later, but that's like kind of what you want to do around the 1 year. It's like you want to use that time, not to talk about engagement specifically, just like where are we going?
Right.
Yeah.
So we'd already talked about the fact that like we wanted to do that. We'd
Yeah.
already talked about the fact that we wanted to move in together, but it was really around that time when we were talking about, okay, so when do we think that's happening?
Everyone's like, how do you bring that up? Do you remember how it
It's
came up?
it started just in little innocuous comments. And then like I remember on that vacation, we were talking about wanting to come back like to this specific place in Mexico that we just really loved. And we were talking about like what times of year would be nice to go to that specific place in Mexico. We went in April. That's when our current anniversary is. And so I think I remember bringing it up in that context of like, oh,
Right.
well, for our actual eventual anniversary, like we're going to have to pick a time when we want to go places.
That's
And
why Johnny
that's
and I picked late September.
there exactly. So like that's how we started to talk about it is like
Yeah.
jokingly at first of like, well, we better pick a good time because we're going to want to travel for our anniversary. And then we started to actually talk about it.
I love that. It's so important. It's so key because it comes from a place of dreaming and positivity together. It's playful. It's like you're just being yourselves. You're both kind of like planner, think ahead types, and it's like natural and it's supposed to be fun,
Yeah,
and playful like that.
completely. And like that trip is also when we had the full disclosure financial conversation, actually.
Ooh.
It
I feel like that's like I don't feel like a money full disclosure talk is like very much vacation vibes. Like, are you doing this over my ties? Like, what's happening?
margarita making class.
Amazing.
We were like learning how to make margaritas and like shaking the shakers and then being like, so how much do you make and what do you have in debt?
Other people in the class are probably like, what is happening?
The fuck are these people doing?
Yeah. It's like I need to drink right now.
But like that's honestly kind of our vibe. Like we go
Yeah.
very quickly from like stupid silly stuff into very serious things and immediately back. Like that is our vibe as a couple.
Okay, that's great. And by 1 year, you know that,
Yeah.
right? You're like, okay, this is our vibe.
Yeah.
Johnny is the same. He like pull out the calendar. Hilariously, and this is an in joke with his friends, he has my baby shower on the calendar. I'm not pregnant. I'm not even, it's been on the calendar for like 2 years now. So it's like a sign I'm like, okay, this man does want a family. Okay. My
This
baby shower is
yeah,
on the calendar. They keep moving it, but it's on there.
that's really funny. So like that whole trip was really like I think about the tentpole conversations that we had in
Yeah.
that trip. And the other thing that really stood out to me about that trip was the card that he wrote me for our anniversary was like he's not really a writer. Like he's very sweet and he's good, actually very good at words of affirmation, but like verbally. And this card, I cried reading this card. And like that's not really my vibe usually reading
Yeah.
stuff like that. It was just such a like deeply thoughtful card about the life that we're building together.
That's so sweet and reassuring.
Yes. And that's why
Yeah.
I share it, because it was that part. It was like, yes, that's sweet, but more so the underscore was like, okay, this man is in it.
Right. That's like, yeah, same when like what I was saying, Johnny said, make your ring folder. Let's do it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Like,
And especially, I haven't mentioned it in this episode yet, but Skyline has been married before, and it wasn't that long ago. So all of these conversations also have the underscore of like, you very recently did this and obviously didn't work
right.
out. And so are you going to be, this is me talking
Hmm.
to him fictionally, like, are you going to be hesitant about this? Are you going to be worried about like things that happened in your past relationship that's going to make you
Yeah.
less likely to commit to this one? And he just consistently did things to reassure me that that's not the case.
And you were receptive to that. You didn't build a story in your head that you were sticking to. It's like he can't. How could he be? No, like no, you were letting him show you that he was ready.
Yeah. And then the other thing that was really going on for this at this time was actually really similar to you. I mentioned I left my corporate job about 6 months into our relationship, but it was about around the year mark of our relationship, which was 6 months into my self employment journey, that I was like, oh, fuck, what did I do?
Oh no.
Like, not that I didn't like it, but just that it
Yeah,
was just so real.
it hits you. Yeah.
It basically was like 6 months of not having a salary and having your income just be all over the place. You get it.
Yeah.
And I was really struggling for the probably first half of this year
Yeah.
in that.
Again, going through the struggle with your partner next
Mm-hmm.
to you, see, it's a validation point.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were like some stuff that he was struggling with, and on a personal note, like won't go into details on it, but like things that I was supporting him in that were different from what I was going through, not both
Yeah.
career stuff, but like we were both able to see how we each showed up for each other, especially when you are also stressed. Like I was seeing how he showed up for me when I knew he was also stressed, not just when everything was great for him.
This is so, so, so important. I want to pause here because it's like it's in the first year of a relationship. We've talked about the honeymoon phase. We talked about getting used to each other and all everything's new and shiny. But this is the real stuff right here. How are you treating each other and being there for each other when you're both growing through it? That's what matters way more than how you feel when you're just like, doing your surprise dates and like
Yep.
having lots of sex and like whatever. It's like, no, this is actually where it counts.
Yeah. I was consistently still doing a lot of work on like things that I hadn't had to encounter because I hadn't been in a relationship of that length in a long time.
Mhm.
Like things were coming up about, like relinquishing control of things and merging my life with someone, things that I hadn't had to think about in a very long time.
Yeah.
It's not all easy.
No, it's really not. Especially like when you like your life, you own your own place. You have this amazing life for yourself. And you're like, okay, now we're really merging lives. We're seriously talking about this. And yeah, it's scary.
Yeah. And like thinking about, you were talking about your timeline thoughts versus
Mm,
Johnny's. And when I think about mine, like my ideal timeline would have been more like yours, like how your relationship played out, about moving in together around a year mark.
yeah.
Like I would have preferred that
Mm,
timeline,
why?
because I just think like I knew at around 6 to 8 months that I wanted to move in with him, which then like would have meant, if we would have started to have that timeline conversation, then you're
Yeah.
like moving in by around a year.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
On the other hand, though, Skyline had never lived alone before. And so he felt very strongly that he wanted to live alone for a full year.
Yeah. Johnny was the
And I
same.
get
There's like
that.
so many similarities. It's wild.
Yeah.
He wasn't like living with a partner before, but he had roommates or housemates.
Yeah. And Skyline
Yeah.
both. Like he had roommates. He also was married. So they were obviously living together.
Yeah.
So he really wanted to live alone for a year, which I understood. Like I totally got where he was coming from. And so I was like, okay, like that's not my ideal timeline. But like we ended up moving in together around a year and a half, which at the back end of that, like I'm now there a week and a half after he moved in. 6 months is no time at all.
Yeah.
But on the front end, when you're thinking about this thing that you thought was ideal and now you have to like relinquish control of what that's going to look like, that's hard.
It's hard. Yes, it is very hard.
So, yeah, so I think like that was the thing that was most present for me was
Hmm.
just my own work on like, okay, what stuff is coming up for me because of this shift, but it was never about us or
You weren't,
our
yeah,
relationship.
right. You weren't questioning the relationship. It's more just like you have to learn how to be patient and just
Yeah.
kind of and relinquish control, which is such an important thing to that life will keep throwing at you continuously. Yeah, just showing
thousand
you
percent.
opportunities to not control so much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that happened around a year mark, a little bit before, is that he spent 5 or 6 days with me at my mom's house and met like a ton of my extended family in San Diego. And staying with family is different than just meeting them.
Oh yeah.
Like he had met my mom before at dinner one time. She came to
Right.
New York,
Casual.
casual, but now we're in her home for 5 or 6 days. And that I think
That's a
taught
lot.
me a lot about our relationship too, because I mean, even for me, like just being with family, there's like stuff that comes up and you get annoyed with them. And there's, like all these things. And seeing how he operates and how we operate as a unit and a team in that environment was really helpful for me to be super comfortable in our relationship.
Was there anything that surprised you?
I think I was surprised at how well he fit in with my mom because that hasn't been the case with prior partners.
Yeah, okay. That's a pleasant surprise for sure.
Yeah. And like not in a bad way. Like in with prior partners, I'd never thought, oh, my mom and them don't get along.
Yeah, no, no,
Like
no.
I never thought about it as a bad
It's
thing.
more like if you gel or they like have a rapport or like they just can get along well. Yeah.
Yeah, like they were like ribbing each other and my mom made a comment at the end of the week. She was like, it feels like he's always been here.
Oh, talk about other
Mhm.
things you can't control, right? How your family gets along with your significant other and how you just have to let that just be. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's wonderful. I really appreciate you sharing all this stuff. And it is so interesting how we have so many parallels of what we are going through at this point. And, obviously these are our two anecdotal experiences, but it just goes to show that like at 1 year, it is a big deal. It is worth paying
Hmm.
attention to and taking time to reflect. So before we get into our themes, is there anything else you want to add?
Well, I think on that note of, yes, this is just two people's anecdotal
Yeah.
experiences, but I do think it's worth noting that you and I come from very different relationship backgrounds
Yeah.
in terms of like where, relationship histories, right?
Yeah. 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 For
And
sure.
yet our experiences around a year are so similar. So I think
Yeah.
like that really speaks to how universal a lot of this stuff is.
Absolutely. And also like the type of person you're choosing to be with. Like, I think the person who is kind of ambivalent in the beginning of the relationship is going to be ambivalent at 1 year as well. That thread really will carry through. Unfortunately, and I wish that wasn't the case. I think maybe there's always exceptions, right? But like usually if they're kind of wishy-washy at first, or like that was my experience with my ex. And we were in love and we were committed to each other, but we were wishy-washy from day one. It was like we didn't know we both met each other not wanting to be in a relationship and kind of just were like, well, I guess we're here. Like, you know.
I think a lot of people are hoping that something fairly major changes about somebody with different levels of seriousness in a
Yeah.
relationship. And I have not seen that to be the case most often.
Okay, so let's get into some themes. You want to kick it off?
Yeah. The biggest thing, obviously, at a year, you've now gone through 4 seasons together. So you have like so much of this data, if you will, on how somebody moves through different parts of their life. And at that point, you've then both celebrated birthdays. You've had some sort of holiday. There's likely that you've been through some sort of hard situation, busy times, slow times, being sick. Like you've kind of seen it all.
And I think it's like a gift, but also at this point you're still deciding, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like even though Allie and I talked about we both kind of knew like this was our person, but like there is still a chance that it wasn't going to work out. There could have been a situation where I moved in with Johnny and then it turned out he was a horrible housemate, or something. Or
Yeah.
like the dynamic was so not what I wanted and it was like no, absolutely no, right?
I'm only a week and a half in, so time will
Yeah.
tell. No,
I mean,
I'm
yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
But actually, though, I do think it is so important to think about it as you are still evaluating because I think too many people get trapped in a sunk cost fallacy. Sorry to use an
Oh my
economics
gosh,
term, but
yeah.
like
Yeah.
sunk cost fallacy being that you are looking at what you've already invested into something and thinking that you can't move on and do something different because of what you've already invested. But the reality is that's gone no matter what.
It's a trap. It's a trap for relationships. Don't buy into the sunk cost fallacy. Maybe it works for other things, but not this. Like,
No.
no.
So I think that
Yeah.
that's super important to think about is like, not that, hey, go ahead, go up and leave at a drop of a hat,
Yeah.
but you're still evaluating, like you said.
Yes. I feel like some people get caught up in like, oh, are they initiating? Oh, or like someone could have easily got caught up in that. Maybe if their partner didn't initiate trips and they really wanted to
Mm,
travel, they could have been like, well, do they want to travel? Like, instead of getting caught up in these like little, what are they doing and keeping score, you need to zoom out and be like, what was this
yes.
year like for me? How did I feel this year? Did this relationship add value to my life? Did they add value to my life? Did I add value to their life? Like, those are the questions you should be asking, not like, oh, but they didn't initiate the anniversary dinner.
Yeah. And I think that that's another example in exercising that control relinquishment a little bit of maybe it didn't look exactly like you thought it would or exactly like your little imagination dreamed it would. Like in my ideal scenario, would I love to have a partner who is all the time being like, let's go on this trip? Like, I booked us flights to Paris. I did, sure. But is that ultimately more important to me
Right.
than the partnership that I have where he is super enthusiastic on these trips and planning them, but he's just not the initiator?
At the 1 year mark, you're going to start to see what your roles are in the
Yeah.
relationship. And I don't believe it's going to be 50-50. You're not both going to equally do everything in your relationship. Someone is probably going to have more of the emotional labor. Is it usually the woman? Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, like, but I learned from actually my mom that like it's okay if that is the case. And I know some people might come at me for saying that, but like as long as your partner is taking the lead on other things in the relationship, it's like you have to kind of accept like this is my role. I'm gonna be the one to start the deep talks. Or, for Johnny, like his role is he's the one who's on top of like our medical stuff and like, our bills and just a lot of our just life stuff. Example. I let my car registration expire for like 3 years. I'm
I
not on
feel
top of
that.
that stuff. He is though. So,
I
like everyone has their strengths. You're gonna see your strengths and weaknesses in the relationship at this point.
absolutely like I'm sure, as an example on my end, I am sure that Skyline in his ideal scenario would love to date somebody who doesn't need to be reminded when we need to leave for something so
Oh,
that we're not
that's
late.
you.
Yeah. But that is not the relationship that he is in.
Right.
So, but like that's his thing. Like
Yeah.
he's like, we're going on a flight tomorrow. He's like, okay, the Uber's going to come at this time. And I'm like, okay, we'll see if
Easy.
I'm ready.
Yeah. So also we want to point out that it's a huge win to make it to 1 year and it's important to celebrate. And, I had like a nonchalant celebration because a lot was happening at that time. But since then we have done cards and like a nice dinner or some experience. We don't do gifts for this one,
Yeah,
but yeah, we actually took a poll on this. So do you want to do the
we
poll?
did. Yeah, we actually decided that we don't do gifts either. Our trip is our gift.
Yeah.
We asked the best way to celebrate 1 year: a big trip, a fancy dinner, something low key or personal, or none of the above. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Most of my audience said a fancy dinner. How about yours?
So it looks like
It's
mine
open.
also said a fancy dinner at 42%. So yeah, then next would be a big trip. Yeah.
Yeah. And then low key personal for me was 24, which is like similar. And then not very many
Yeah.
people said it's not a big deal, only 10%.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a fancy dinner is easy and I think like a good way to celebrate 1 year. Like go all
Totally.
out, go to like an omakase, go to, a chef's tasting or whatever. Like, if you can.
I also think it's worth noting that each of these adjectives is subjective based on what that means to you. So,
Totally.
like a fancy dinner to one person is different than a fancy dinner to another person. A big trip might mean you're getting on a plane and going to another country, or it might mean that you're taking a road trip. Like it is what
Absolutely.
it means to you.
Yeah. You get to decide together. It should be fun and like talk about it together. It's not meant to be for one person to initiate. So the next theme for the 1 year mark is a big one, obviously timelines, which we touched on last episode too, but I think it's more at the surface of this moment because it's like, oh, we hit 1 year.
I think it's also getting more real that it's about you. Like it's about me and you. Now we are talking about me and you and what we are going to do in a
Yeah.
more real way. At least that's
Yeah.
how I experienced it.
Yeah. And I think it's at this point, you probably have a sense of whether or not you want to re-up for another year, at least, you know. Like, are you gonna, keep that subscription going or, like, so I think again, we don't want you to think that you have to be talking about marriage and engagement. It could, or moving in, it really could be a wide variety of the next steps, whether maybe if you have kids, like what are you doing with your kids? Yeah, just other things going on in your life. Like how are you continuing to integrate and what does moving forward look like to you based on where you are?
I think that's the biggest piece is that there's no one right step to be taking at this time, but it's the fact that you are together jointly talking about what that looks like for you. Like what does 1 year mean for you in your relationship, and you're talking about it and you're on the same page about it and being open and transparent.
Yeah. I also think don't let your partner, if they're a little cagey about timelines, don't let them cop out of this conversation.
Mm,
Like, I think you are allowed to kind of put your foot down and be like, I want to know what the next year looks like for us. If they're dodging it, if they're kind of defensive, that's a red flag.
yeah. I mean, like you mentioned about your past relationship and how you
Yeah.
were both kind of wishy washy. Like, if both people are okay with that and both people are okay being like, we're doing what we're doing and that's fine, great. But
Yeah.
if you're in a place where you really want to understand what the next steps are, or maybe not even next steps, but like you said, what does the next year look like? You deserve to be with somebody who is willing to be on that same page with you.
Yeah, and on a lighter note, you can be like, what did we like about the last year? What do we want to do next year? It can be that
Yeah.
conversation too. It doesn't have to be so serious. It could just be like, what did we not do this past year that we'd love to do in the next 12 months? And that could be anything that you want to do together, whether it's like spending more time with family, other travel things, trying new hobbies together, whatever. So it doesn't have to be so heavy. But like, I think what I want to point out is just get used to talking about the future and making it fun.
Yeah. And I think it is fun to dream together.
Yeah.
And if you
Well,
frame
hopefully,
it
because
that
sometimes
way,
it's
yeah,
not, and then it's a red flag, right?
true. Yeah, it should be. Let me put it that way. It
It should
should
be
be
fun.
fun to dream together with the right person.
Yeah. What do you think you should know about someone 1 year in?
I think 1 year in, let me caveat this by saying not in your 20s, probably,
Okay.
but that you should know if they are the person that you want to do whatever the thing is that you want to be doing. So, like,
Um,
if you are in a place where you want to get married or you want to have kids or you want to just live with someone or whatever the thing is that you want to be doing, I think a year in, you should know that that's the person that you want to do it with personally.
yes. And it's like you want to do it with them and you can. There is the
So true.
capability and capacity to do it with them because wanting is different than being able to in
So
this
true. I
case.
think,
Yeah.
like, for me, I think in wanting, I'm also including, like, and I want to do it with them because they are able to show up for me in XYZ way.
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
like if Johnny really wanted to go back to California with a partner and I was like, I don't know, that would have been a breaking point,
Yeah.
probably. Like if I was like, and if he had to go back and I wasn't sure, we would probably split up.
And I
Yeah.
think that would have made sense if that had been the
Yeah.
case.
Yeah. And it's hard if you do have to break up with someone at the 1 year mark, like it's really tough, but I think it's also like you have to pat yourself on the back for choosing yourself and choosing to follow your own path and giving yourself the chance to find someone who will follow with you.
Yeah, I think something else important to call out on that note is that, especially, I know I have a lot of listeners that are in their 30s or in their 40s.
Yeah.
This is especially hard to do when you are seeing examples around you from your peers of people who are doing the thing that you're not sure is right for your relationship.
Yes. The biggest mistake is just taking every step, like being on the escalator because you think you're supposed to, and not actually considering if you want to with that person, like you said, if they can, if they're going where you're going. Yeah.
Exactly. Because the worst case scenario actually is not getting off the escalator. It's ending up at the top of the escalator with the wrong person and then having to go all the way back down to the bottom.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, and if that happens, like, you will get through it, you will be fine. But I know in my past, I have wished that I got off sooner.
Same. It's hard. And also, like, I wrote down knowing is a decision when it comes to like, are they
Mm,
the one? Are we committing to each other for a longer time? Like, don't expect to know in your bones necessarily. I don't think it's everyone's always like, oh, you just you know for sure 100%. I think having a little bit of room for doubt is okay and healthy. But I do think I know you're the one is like more of a choice. It's like I'm
yeah.
choosing to have this life with this person. I would say you're choosing your hard. Like if that person is really challenging to be with and you're like, well, I know they're the one. It's like you're also choosing all the challenges that come with them. So it's a decision. Yeah.
I like that phrasing of you're choosing your hard because there's going
Yeah.
to be hard.
Yeah.
There is. And at a
Like,
year, you've probably seen a decent amount of it, but not yet all.
no, not all of it, but
A
a
lot
lot
of
of
it.
it. Okay, so we actually did a poll for this one. Should you know if you want to marry someone 1 year in? I had 45% yes and 44% it depends. And the rest were no or I don't know. So,
My audience was a little more definitive. Almost
yeah.
60% of my audience said, yes, you should know. And then 30% said depends, but also not very many with no or no idea.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting that, well, yeah, I guess what do you think the depends is?
My guess is it is based on the replies that I got, is a similar thing to the move in conversation about age and like stage of life.
I would say maybe it depends if you don't want to actually ever get married.
Also,
Yeah,
that. Yeah. Also, that.
yeah,
So, like, all of these should have come with the caveat of like, if this is the thing you ever want to do.
yeah. We had a note here on this theme of like, where is this going? If you're long distance,
Mm.
this would be a really good time, the 1 year mark, to talk about how you're going to transition to living together geographically or whatever that looks like, whether you're in the same place separately or together. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I would have a really hard time going. Honestly, it would probably come for me sooner than this, but going any further than a year without a really good understanding of how soon we get to not be long distance.
Yeah, yeah. This is just like overall a good time to be checking in about your relationship. Look up check-in questions online. I mean, I'm sure you have resources. I have resources on this. Like, do your 1 year check-in. Even if they're kind of dragging their feet, just be like, listen, this is important to me. Okay.
Yeah. And if you say it that way, hopefully, I think if somebody doesn't respond positively to, hey, this thing is really important to me, and I would love to have this like honestly quite short conversation in the grand scheme of things, that is a
Yeah,
red flag if they're responding poorly to
absolutely.
that.
Let's talk about friend groups. So, have you met all of Skyline's like besties at this point at the 1 year mark?
At the 1 year mark, not yet, because a lot of his best friends are in San Francisco.
Okay.
So, like, similar, like you said about Johnny coming over here and like meeting a lot of, or I say here because I'm in New York,
Yeah,
and meeting a lot of your friends. So, I was meeting them kind of sporadically as they traveled. So
got
now I
it.
have.
Got it. Yeah, I would say at 1 year I had met all of Johnny's close friends and he had met all of mine. And at that point, like when we moved in together in Mountain View, it was a very interesting situation where we had all this structure in our social life that I was not used to. So he was like, yeah, we're gonna have dinner every Wednesday with the other couple we're friends with, and we're gonna have
Oh,
girls' night every and boys' night every Tuesday. And I'm like, oh, like I have to go. Like, what if I don't want to? And of course, I ended up loving it. And it's like they're the anchors of my week. But like that was an interesting transition of like, okay, this is how I'm blending into his friend group.
yeah. What would have happened if you weren't into it?
I think it would have made Johnny's life a lot harder.
Yeah. I'm
Luckily,
glad you are.
he's chosen wonderful people to be friends with for 10 plus years. Getting along with your partner's friends is pretty important. I don't think you have to be
Oh
besties
my
with
God.
them, but if at least you like being in their presence is important.
Yeah. I was asking also because even if they were amazing, I think
Yeah.
I would struggle with having that much structure, like just full stop of
I'm a
like, I
routine
do the
girly. I
same
love
thing.
it.
Oh, I
Yeah.
hate it.
No, I love it. Well, also like I don't live in the city. In New York, it's different. New York City, it's
Yeah.
different. Like you want some more flexibility and freedom because there are so many cool things to do all the time. Here in Mountain View, nothing's going on. Okay. There's
No, that's a
absolutely
good
nothing
point.
going on here.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So
Like
I'm
in my
happy
mind,
with
I'm
it.
thinking like, what if something comes up on a Tuesday that I want to go do? But like, I guess that wouldn't happen in the suburbs as much.
Literally nothing. So
So on that note, what we asked our audiences at 1 year, do you expect to A, have fully merged friend groups, B, still keep mostly separate circles, C, a mix of both, or D, what social circle?
yeah, I had 79% a mix of both, and you had 81% a mix of
Yeah.
both.
Which I think it ladders back to the it depends. Like I think this is
Yeah.
this question's version of it depends.
Yeah, for sure. I think that if my friends were local, we would be merging them because we're all kind of the same age, and I think that they would get along. Yes, we saw this at our wedding. Our friends absolutely got along with each other very well.
Yeah, I think for us it's definitely a mix
Hmm.
because Skyline did move here fairly recently, but he has a lot of friends here, like because a couple of his close friends who lived here have a very strong friend group. So basically, that's his new friend group. And then obviously, I've lived here a long time. So I have
Yeah.
friends here. And we've kind of done both.
Yeah. It's nice to be able to do both. Yeah, it's nice. But I would say, like, look, it depends on where your friends live, how many friends you have. Like, no judgment if you have like one really close friend and that's it. This is like more of a fun question, like just whatever, however it lands for you.
So the next theme that we wanted to talk about is keeping the spark alive. And that feeling that at around a year is a long time. This is when things can start to feel more routine in a good way, but also that can lead to some things that you might not want in terms of routine and things feeling a little bit more maybe boring.
Yeah.
So like
I
what are some
mean,
things you and Johnny have done to kind of think about that or combat that?
yeah, I mean, look, I said this in the last episode. I'm like allergic to the TV routine, but that like in the beginning, but now like we're very in it. For us, what keeps the spark alive, the two main things I think are, I know it's weird, but the routine of our date nights does keep the spark alive. The routine of
Yeah.
scheduling sex absolutely helps keep the spark alive because I don't think we would have it nearly as much if we didn't schedule it because I can't speak for every couple, obviously, but it's like waiting until you're both spontaneously in the mood is really hard. Like it just kind of doesn't really work. You kind of have to carve out the time, I think, if you want to spend time turning each other on and like actually getting into it. And no, we don't have to have sex during the scheduled time.
It's
Okay.
not required.
We can cuddle. We can also just be like, we're good. Like, it doesn't, it's just a reminder of like, hey, when was the last time, we did that? Maybe we should do it again. Also, using question cards and for me, it's always something to look forward to, a date night or a trip. So we've always had trips planned, like small ones, like a getaway, Napa, Mexico with friends. We visit friends in Texas sometimes. Like, yeah. How about you guys?
I think it's the trips for us
Yeah.
of always having something to look forward to similarly. And some of them are smaller, like or domestic. Like we spent 2 nights in Charleston last weekend and like really felt like we reconnected. He also lived there a while. So like seeing that through his eyes and new experiences together, I think
Yeah. That's really the
more
common
so.
denominator. Yeah.
Yeah, is just experiencing new stuff together or showing the other person something. Like he showed me Charleston or I've, taken him to my volleyball tournaments. Like that for us keeps things fun.
I love that. That's so important. I actually did a whole episode on like how to develop a deeper emotional connection. And that was one of the points of like show each other things you love, show each other the nostalgic things in your life, show each other like your hometown where you used to go to camp, whatever it was, like it can
Yeah,
really keep the spark alive. I think if you hit the 1 year mark and things are starting to feel a little boring, don't panic. Learn
agreed.
to be okay with the monotony and learn that you have to put effort into spontaneity.
And I think it's the effort into spontaneity, like plan to be spontaneous is such a weird thing
I
to
know.
say, but I think that it's so true. And the other thing is I see a lot of people in the questions that I get getting caught up in who is doing the suggesting.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we got into that a little bit when we were talking
Yeah.
about like me and Skyline planning trips or, deeper conversations that, you mentioned somebody might be dealing with. But I really want to caution people against worrying too much about that
Yes.
and just doing it.
The point is to get to the fun thing, not who plans it. And if you
Right.
want your partner to plan something, like you're allowed to be like, hey, it's been a while since you planned anything, or actually, I would really feel loved if you planned a surprise for us. Like,
Yeah,
that's okay to ask and remind them to do sometimes. It doesn't mean that they're like, they don't love you. I don't know.
completely. And that's where the sort of validating comes in, right? Because if you're in this place where you're like, okay, we're at a year, I'm feeling like we're in this boring routine, I don't like it, I want to start suggesting more stuff, and you're constantly meeting resistance, or you're saying things like, I would feel so loved if you would X, and you're meeting resistance, that's information for you.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, like, if I ask Johnny to plan something for us, he's on it right away. I never have to remind him or anything. Like, and I rarely do, but like I have. I'm not going to say I haven't. Yeah. And also, like, I want to say, like, we're 3.5 years. I don't even know anymore. 3.5 years? 2.5 years?
Well, you're about to be at your two, no, you're about to be at your year wedding anniversary.
Three. Yeah, 3.5 years. We're three and a half
Yeah.
years in. And Johnny and I, at this point, like, this is just looking farther ahead than 1 year. We love the quiet time because our schedules are usually packed. We relish in the having the free weekend of nothing to do. Like that's
Yep.
actually the fun part now. So, because it's like we have just constant friends, family, weddings, baby showers, all the, just constant things going on. So for us at this point, 3.5 years in, the spark is the nothing.
But I love that you guys are able to relish in that. Like
Yeah.
that is such a good sign. I think especially something in this time period at around a year mark. Like, are you excited to just spend time with that person?
Yeah.
And it
It
doesn't
feels
have to be flashy.
restorative. I call it
Mm,
restorative. It's like that, yeah, that's what it feels like. But I would say 1 year, you have to start putting in some effort in the novel experiences, whatever that looks like. But let's talk about sex for a second, because this is also where things might start to feel like you're going through the motions. You have like a certain first we do this, then we do this, and then we do that, and then like kind
yep.
of routine. Yeah. Have you experienced that at all?
Yeah, and it's new for me because as I mentioned, like it's been a
Yeah.
long time since I was this far into a relationship. And the last time I was 26. I was in a very different place libido wise.
Right.
So like it just looks different now. And
Yeah.
I have had to learn a lot more about my own libido and desire in order to show up better in our relationship and in our sex life.
You couldn't have said it better, honestly. Like when you get to this point and the novelty of each other's bodies or whatever fades, then you
Mm-hmm.
have to actually get to work. And it's interesting how this happens. I think it happens to a lot of couples.
Yeah,
We're like,
absolutely.
oh, the novelty wears off. Now we're left with how do our libidos actually work? How does it actually work to get each other in the mood and have great sex? Because it takes conversations. It doesn't just happen when you're just like pining for each other. Also, when you live together and you're going to bed in the same bed every night, probably, or whatever, separate rooms, whatever you have. You're in the same space every night. You
Yeah,
don't have to have sex like it was before when it was like, oh, we don't know when we're going to see each other, so we better just do it. Like
it's
it's so
so
different.
different. I have learned about myself that I am pretty much never in the mood. Like I don't have spontaneous desire. Like I will never, like you said, two people being spontaneously in the mood at the same
Yeah.
time. That's literally never going to be
Oh
me.
wow.
But I actually have a really high libido, but I have responsive desire, meaning
Hmm.
that like I need to get turned on in order to then want sex. And so
Yeah.
therefore, if I never do anything to get turned on, I'm never going to want sex. And then we would never have it.
Yeah. Right. And the whole scheduling sex thing, by the way, is like you can use that time to do the turn on process, whatever that
Yeah,
is, separately or together. And because, like you said, you have to turn the car on. You have to like put your foot on the gas and just start by itself. Like, yeah,
1000%. Something that I also highly recommend is continuing to make out,
yeah,
and where makeout doesn't necessarily lead to sex.
yeah. Just a long, what is it? They say 6 second kiss,
6 second
like
kiss.
one a day at least. Yeah, I agree. It's you got to keep doing it.
I also think that that actually helps you want sex more eventually because at least for me, if making out is always leading to sex, then I'm going to be less likely to want to make out if I'm not in the mood to have sex or if I don't think I am.
Yeah,
And then next thing you know, not only are we not having sex, but we're not kissing either.
right,
And then
right.
it just like it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, no, having the physical touch, it doesn't lead anywhere is super important and healthy, good for your relationship, good for connection. There's really no downsides to this. Yeah, and I'm a spontaneous desire person, or I'm just really ready to go all the time. I'm gonna be honest.
I'm jealous.
For me, it's more like connected to my mood. If I'm in a good mood, which is most of the time, I'm like ready to go. Where Johnny's more of the responsive one, and he
Yeah,
needs more of the, which is like I don't know how we always end up like the opposites. I don't know, it just
it's so
happens, but.
funny.
But you learn this after the novelty and urgency wears off. You might not know this 6 months into your relationship. You might
I
learn this
didn't.
a little bit later. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
if this is new to you, like if you're like at this 1 year mark, you're like, wait, our sex life feels different. Does this mean our relationship is going downhill? No, it just means you've reached a different stage of love and connection.
yeah. Like there was a moment where, like, luckily, honestly, because of this platform, I have a lot of information that I probably wouldn't have had
Yeah,
before having this platform. So like I didn't know the fuck about anything about desire
of
types
course.
before
Yeah.
this. So I probably would have thought like, oh no, I don't like him anymore.
Right. Okay, so we have two more polls. This one is at 1 year, which feels most important in a relationship? Feeling like best friends, keeping the spark alive, trust and emotional safety, or shared goals? What'd you get for this?
The number one far and away, which is I'm seeing the same for you. 60% of people for me said trust and emotional safety.
Yeah, trust and emotional safety, 64%. the next biggest one was shared goals at 25% for me.
Yeah, me too.
Why do you think trust emotional safety won by a landslide?
I think because that to me, as I look at the other options, is like the foundation of the other things. It's
Mm,
like if you don't have trust and emotional safety with someone, it is going to be very difficult to keep the spark alive. It's going to be very difficult. Like, I certainly want that with my best friend.
yeah.
That
I
feels like the underscore.
I was surprised by this answer. I agree with what you're saying. I was surprised because I think at 1 year, you're not going to make it that far if you don't have trust and emotional safety. So I was more shared
Oh,
goals
that's true.
in my answer. Yeah, like I was like, okay, that's important. Yeah, it's important, but it's like a given, you know?
Yeah. So maybe a better way to ask the question is like, what's most important? What's newly
Yeah,
important?
yeah. But I think you're right. You're right. It is the foundation. It's got to be there. Like you're not going to make it if you don't have those two things. So it does make sense that it was the highest voted.
And maybe it's that it deepens. It's like, yes, I
Yeah,
totally agree with you that you're not going to get to 1 year or you shouldn't get to 1 year if you don't trust someone and feel emotionally safe. But I think the level at which you trust them and the level of emotional safety is at an all time, like deep level at a
yeah,
year.
agree. I mean, yeah, I mean, and hopefully it just continues to strengthen and deepen because I know for me at 1 year that wasn't my max of trust and emotional safety in my relationship. I still had a way to go for me.
Hmm.
And yeah, I
I
think
think
even at this point, yeah.
I think for me it was like that was where I remember around a year telling him things that I've like never told anyone
Mm.
and thinking, "Oh shit, I have never told anyone that."
Yeah. I think I've gotten there, but it's like for me, there was just I knew there was still parts of me that didn't trust that it was going to work out. You know, like I
Yeah,
didn't trust
totally.
that he really had my back because, and it wasn't because of what he was doing. It's like my own stuff,
No,
my
of
past
course.
stuff. Yeah, getting in the
I
way.
I've said this many times before. I generally like walk around life waiting to get hurt. So like I'm like
Yeah,
the
right.
opposite. I'm like the total opposite.
Totally.
Yeah. So the other thing we asked our final poll was on the flip side, what is a the biggest sign of trouble at the 1 year mark? And the options were no serious future talks yet, no I love you yet, never having navigated a conflict, or feeling bored.
Yeah. So the
And
biggest one was no future talks yet at 37% for me, 41% for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
followed fairly closely by no I love you at 33 for you and 26 for me.
I agree with this. This seems in line. Like if you're at 1 year committed in a relationship, you're exclusively seeing each other and you have not talked about where it's going, that's a sign of trouble for sure.
Major red flag for me. And
Yeah.
future talks doesn't mean that you have to be deciding to get engaged or move in or get
Hmm.
married. It's just talks about the future.
Yeah. I don't know if this is advice, but do you agree with that? A relationship has to keep moving forward or it dies?
Oh, interesting. Yes, but I don't think that that looks the same for everyone.
Yeah, forward could is just forward, whatever that means to you. But I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, like I think if a relationship isn't moving, it does feel stuck, stagnant, disconnected, like you just feel unsure. I don't know.
Yeah. And the movement could be what we were talking about before, experiencing new things,
Yeah.
showing each other stuff, like learning things together. Like that is movement. It doesn't have to be the traditional relationship escalator.
Yeah. Johnny and I were, what, 3.5 years in, and we're married. Like, we're in our kind of, this is our year of nothing. That's what I'm
Mhm.
calling it. Nothing's happening. We're not planning a wedding and we're not having kids. It's just like that
Yeah.
between. And if we weren't planning on starting a family, like, I would be like, well, okay, what's actually next, though? And that's not why we're starting a family, just to
Yeah,
say that.
totally.
But, like, you know what I mean? It's like, because I did live in that mindset for a while. If we're not having kids, it's like, what is next? What does that look like? It's a scary question. But yeah, it's like you have to create that together, whatever forward is. You get to decide and create that together.
Absolutely, which I think is the fun of it.
Yeah, that this is fun. Like when you get to a year with someone, like you're established, you're committed. Like this is actually so much fun. And I hope if you're listening and you're dating, like I fully believe you'll get here and beyond with someone, and you'll get to enjoy all of this.
I totally agree. And I think I want to like loop back to what we said at the top, which is that so much can change in a year and
Yeah.
even faster than that. Like when I think about my relationship with Skyline and like how quickly I felt like I was always in this relationship. And I would have to
Oh,
remind myself, like, no, wait, like 5 months ago, you didn't even know this man existed.
right. You got to embrace that and not fear it. Don't fight it. you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, just to wrap things up again, like if you have any questions for us or comments or anything, please drop them on Spotify or YouTube. Like we're here to answer or clarify anything. And just as a recap, at the 1 year mark, you want to be reflecting, you want to be also looking forward, and you want to be working
Mm.
on keeping that spark alive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think continuing to lean into the fun and to lean into feeling excited.
Yeah. Well, Allie, we did it.
We did it. This
This
has
is
been so
awesome.
fun.
I'm so excited for people to hear this. Where can we find you?
You can find me at Finding Mr. Height on Instagram and TikTok.
And yes, you can find me on Instagram at dating.intentionally. And please go back and listen to part one and two if you haven't. And
Yes.
thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone.